When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Tryna stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like a rock and roll tour. When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Tryna stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing.
Hey, Tyler.
Hey, Piet. How we
What's
be
up, buddy? How we doing today?
doing? Good. You ready?
Oh, what do we got?
A little Southern
Crispy.
Tier. Yeah, dude. Crispy isn't even the word. It's bold orange grapefruit flavor. It is, to be exact, a fruited double IPA, 2 times citrus from Southern Tier. 8.2.
Absolutely love it.
8.2 on the scale.
On a Tuesday. Going up on a Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the New Score podcast. My name is Pat. This is my co-host, TYG, Tyler Pratt. We have a stacked episode for you today. We have a brand new segment we are absolutely stoked to introduce to the people. We got some MLB playoffs to kick it off. And then at the end, most importantly, we're going to recap every NFL game from this past weekend. And we got lots to say about it. So let's jump into it. Tyler, the Texas Rangers are up 2-0 on the Houston Astros in the ALCS. The Philadelphia Phillies are up 1-0 on the Arizona D-backs. Little recap. Texas Rangers still haven't lost. We were on last week talking about them. Still haven't lost. They got to Framber Valdez last night early, putting it down on Houston. Altuve's hitting like 156 right now, so you got to love that. Absolutely love that. Good for the Rangers. Our boy Monty pitched a gem the other night. Evaldi dealt last night. I mean, the Rangers got it rolling right now. So hopefully they could pull it out. On the other side, we got the Philadelphia Phillies continuing to smash pumpkins. It's Halloween season, and these boys are smashing pumpkins.
Love that.
Every time they're going out there. Bryce Harper, Schwarbo, hit a leadoff dinger, start off the game. Castellanos, and of course that place was rocking in Philly. D-backs made it a little interesting later on in the game. But ultimately, I mean, the Phillies were going to win that regardless. And, hey, they're up 1-0 on the D-backs. Tyre, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was just going to say kind of I never really talked about it, but how crazy is it that you get a guy like Kyle Schwarber leading off? I feel like most lineups, Schwarber's your 3, 4, 5 hitter, but they got him leading off, which is kind of crazy. Other than that, I'm just really happy for Monty. Love that he's not only pitching really well, but has the shot after St. Louis traded him over to Texas. So happy for him. I hope Texas goes all the way. That's obviously who we're pulling for in the ALCS. And then the Phillies are just the Phillies. So I think that'll be what I'm pulling for is Phillies, Rangers, World Series. I'll be very interested in that.
7 games. That's what we want.
That's all we hope.
That's what we want. All right. On a not so positive part of this show is us recapping our big juicy bets from over the weekend. Hey, we can't do good every weekend. You know, you got to take that L sometimes. The boys ended up going 2-6, but hit on a bonus bet of Jordan Addison anytime touchdown scorer. So we did get that. I mean, 7-1 last week. It's hard to top that.
Yeah.
Bit of a letdown this past weekend, but either way, it was a great weekend of football. We enjoyed every minute of it. And, hey, we'll get back on that horse this week, baby.
I was going to say.
Yes, sir. You, black shirt.
Hey, so the in a week where we see 2 heavy favorites. I mean, the Niners, heavy favorites over the Browns. Eagles, in my opinion, heavy favorites over the Jets. Both lose. And then the Bills almost lost to the Giants. So we're talking about 3 out of the 4 heavy favorites, Dolphins being the other one, but they handled their business. Like, all of them almost lost, the other 3. So it's just, in a week where that happens and we still end up 3-6 in our juicy bets, like, I'll take that. I'll take that every week in a crazy week of football, but I digress.
It was, and we'll get into, we had some near misses too. There were a couple things that could have gone the other way, and we're having a different conversation, but we'll get into that later in the show. Our first segment of the day is our pet peeve segment. Tyler, I'm going to kick it off because I got a good pet peeve. I was thinking about this, you and I are going to be going to Dallas for our birthdays in a couple weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to be flying out there. And I was just thinking about, how I hate to fly and why I hate to fly. And then it just came to me, one of those things that just really grinds my gears. Big pet peeve of mine. Folks, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. When the plane lands, that doesn't mean you're ready to get off the plane. So you can keep that ass in your seat, please, and thank you. Tyler, there is nothing I hate more than after the anxiety of going through a flight. You drop down, and then everybody on the plane has got to get up and just run their ass up to the front like it's a race or something. Like, you're going to be waiting in that baggage claim just as long as my ass all the way in the back, getting off 10 minutes after you, whatever it may be. You're still going to be sitting down there waiting for your bags. I don't understand people. There's a bathroom on the plane too. If you got to go that bad, go on the plane. But that's a big pet peeve of mine, and I am not looking forward to that part. But I am pumped for our trip. Tyler, what's your pet peeve today?
Yeah, I mean, to touch on that, for everyone who cares, we're not quite first class yet. We haven't reached that pinnacle in our flight life. So we still sit in the back of the plane or somewhere in the middle. So we, like Pat said, you got to wait. Just wait your turn. That's what life's all about. So my pet peeve is it has to do with sporting apps or apps in general. When you put money in and you make a mistake, it happens, you want your money back, you do it in the allotted time, but you kind of don't really get your money back. It comes in the form of app credits. So the other night, I'm looking for Maverick tickets for the Nets game. So the Mavs home opener next Friday. And I'm on the app and I'm searching, I'm looking for tickets. I'm coordinating with Pat. And then I closed out or backed out of the app to look at something else. When I went back in, it brought me to a different game where the Mavs were playing the Nets, a different date, I should say. So I was looking originally at the 10/27 date, and then when I loaded back in, it brought me to the date on February 6th, just because that's it's a home game for the Nets. So it was in Brooklyn, which is closer to where I live as opposed to Dallas, Texas. So I can't blame the app for doing that, but what I can do is blame the creators for their process when it comes to getting your money back. So not only did I accidentally purchase 2 tickets for the wrong date, but somehow Game Time charged me for 6 tickets, all different seats, by the way, for the same game. 6 tickets to all, I'd say 3 sets of 2 paired together, but 3 different seats. I'm like, how the fuck did that even happen? So either way, I go through the process of getting my money back. I try to call them. The only 2 options they have on the automated machine are, if you need help purchasing tickets, press 1. If you're at the venue and you need assistance, press 2. That's it. No other options. So I have to go to the chat online, and it took about, I don't know, an hour and a half, give or take, for this guy to figure everything out. But of course, I now have $965 in Game Time credit on the app that I can only spend on sporting venues. I only meant to spend $350, and now the other $600 I'm just stuck with and now I have to use it within 2 years, or you lose it, by the way. So not only do you get the money back in the game or the app, but you have
Use
to
it or lose it.
use it or lose it. At least they gave me 2 years, which is, I guess, kind of cool. But what about the people who don't do shit that often? They're not going to be able to go every year. So either way, that's my pet peeve. It's kind of fucked up, but I'm battling through, and I'm actually going to check right now because I technically, as of last night, didn't get that money yet. They said within 24 hours.
Uh-oh.
So let's see. I still don't have the credit. So now to add to the pet peeve, now I got to reach back out and find my money. It's just a hassle. And just to clarify, they say they give you a 24-hour window. I messaged them within 30 minutes. I was right on top of it. Like, you're telling me the transactions went through that fast and the seller approved the purchase and did everything within 30 minutes and I can't get my money back? It's crazy. It's crazy. But that's my pet peeve of the day.
Well, sorry to hear that, brother. Either way, we're going to have
Yeah.
a great-ass time. I said 2 weeks, but yeah, you're right. It's literally next week, so
Next week.
let's go. We are very excited to present this brand new segment that we like to call Questions with a Fan. Because while Tyler and I can provide our thoughts, our opinions, our analysis on teams throughout the league, we don't really have that emotional attachment besides his Cowboys, my Rams. We don't have that anywhere else. So today we got a Chicago Bears fan, lifelong Chicago Bears fan. His name is Mr. Todd Albrecht. Tyler and I both graduated with his son Tyler. By the way, shout out Tyler. Happy fucking birthday, brother.
Happy birthday,
Love you,
Tyler.
miss you. Hope you're doing good. And happy birthday. But to bring it back to Todd, Todd and I have stayed in touch over the years, mainly talking about football. I've been blessed to still have him in my life, communicating with him. He's a great guy, and he is by far the biggest Chicago Bears fan I've met in my life, and he has been for a long time. So we're pumped to get his insight, see where he's at, how he's feeling. Try to support him the best that we can. But without further ado, Mr. Todd Albrecht. Todd, what's going on?
Hey guys, how's it going?
It's good.
Great.
Thank you so much for joining us. I know it's not easy dealing with what you have to deal with as a Bears fan right now, and it's probably not the best for you to have to think about it, talk about it, but we are honored to have you. We are honored to have you share your experiences and everything that you feel as a Chicago Bears fan. So got a few questions for you. Starting it off, take us back to when you first became a Chicago Bears fan. How old were you and what attracted you to them?
Oh God, yeah. So obviously, like you said, graduated with my son Tyler. So I'm a little older than you guys. I'm 53. So probably like an 83. I didn't come from a sports family. I came from a hardworking family, and I kind of found sports on my own and came across the Bears, and they were kind of a tough team. And there was this guy, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but his name was Walter Payton.
Oh.
And it's like, we didn't have ESPN or anything like that back then. So it's like, there were like these ABC sports specials, and it showed him like, he had this hill he ran. And it's like, you've probably seen footage of it today. It's just, the guy was just an animal in the work ethic and just a cool guy. Like, if you ever want to do something, go back and just watch Walter Payton's blocking skills, just what he did there. And I kind of fell in love with the team there, and kind of the hard-nosed football that they used to play. And of course, then they went on and had success in '85. And God, after that, I don't know, it's been a roller coaster.
Love that.
I love that answer so much because people today don't understand how great Walter Payton was. But on top of that, the even better of a man that he was and everything that he embodied, everything that he stood for, like you said, his work ethic, how he set the tempo for the rest of the room. And he was one of those guys that was part of, one of the greatest football teams ever, is that 85 Bears team.
Walter Payton Award.
So shout out Walter Payton. GOAT. Still the greatest running back of all time in my eyes. Moving on, is Walter Payton your favorite player, or who's your favorite Chicago Bear of all time that you really thought embodied what it meant to be a Chicago Bear?
Wow. You could pretty much pick any linebacker. You really want to pick somebody? Dick Butkus was the all-time Bear. He was before my time, but if you watch video of that guy, I mean, it was like you didn't want to even be around him if you were an offensive player. I mean, he was nasty. He was funny, and he was a different guy off the field. He became, he was in movies and stuff like that, and he was actually a real funny guy. Actually, up until his death here, I mean, he actually was his own guy on Twitter, and he would just post some absolutely hilarious shit. And I guess you got to think Chicago football. It's got to be Butkus, even though he was before my time. But yeah, Walter's there too.
Yeah. Dick Butkus, R.I.P. Legend, one of the greatest linebackers of all time. I respect the hell out of that answer too.
Do you know, here's a fact about Dick Butkus. Back in his day, you think about how early on he was. He had 22 career interceptions back then. That's unheard of. Like, if a linebacker retires with 22 career interceptions now, that's impressive. But think about it back then.
Yeah, I never would have guessed that. That's pretty amazing back then. Seeing how, they're not throwing the ball 40 times like they are now, 40, 50 times. Right. That's unbelievable stat. I never knew that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But next question, is there a Bears team that you ever reminisce? Are there times you ever think back to like a specific team that brought you a lot of joy? Is it that team in the 80s?
Yeah, it was different then. The 85 Bears were just, they're legendary. But, I now I'm at the point where I'm thinking back to, like, man, we kind of blew the Cutler era, honestly. It's like, it never came together for whatever reason. Lovey kind of let the defense get old. We never really had a full wide receiver crew. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but it just seemed like, I feel like there was a wasted shot there during the Cutler years. And I don't know, lately I've been thinking about that era the most, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that team with Rex Grossman too. Such a great defense, and then Hester starts the Super Bowl off with a kick return for a touchdown.
One of my most favorite memories. Honestly, it's like you're going up against Peyton Manning. You're like, man, we don't stand a chance. And it's like I came out of that couch so fast when he returned that freaking kickoff. It was like, we're in this. And I still say to this day, if we had any other quarterback other than Rex Grossman, Lovie Smith would have won a Super Bowl that day.
You're probably right. I know he was a great. A lot of people don't remember. He was a great D coordinator with the Rams when they won theirs. And he was a great coach for them for years. We didn't have the guys on defense, but we were formidable, and we won a lot of games because Lovie Smith was a great coach. So I was happy to see when he got hired.
Great guy, but it's funny, after the Bears, he truly's never found success after that, whether, collegiate or NFL or whatever, for whatever reason again, But his time in Chicago was good.
It was. Moving on to a more negative topic, get into a little of today's Bears. The reason why Todd and I have really come together, start talking to each other these last couple of years, is because I'm an Ohio State fan. He's a Bears fan. So naturally, when Justin Fields got drafted to the Bears, texted him right away. I was pumped, excited to, because I really thought Justin Fields would do something in the league. To get a little insight where you're at right now, Todd, give me a percentage that represents your confidence in Justin Fields being your franchise quarterback going forward.
Percentage thing, that's going to sound like a cop-out, but it's like I'm 50-50. It's like for every good thing, there's a bad thing, and he had two great games in a row, And then they go into Minnesota, and of course, Vikings blitz him 72% of the time. It's like he forgot everything that just happened in the last 2 weeks. He got injured on a play where he held the ball for 6.1 seconds. It's like, one of his greatest attributes is also one of his greatest downfalls. He wants the big play, and he's looking down for the big play and everything. But, throw the ball away, 6.1 seconds, that thing shouldn't be in your hands. I love the kid. I think he came from a good upbringing. I think he's got all the tools, all the physical ability, but it's year 3, and the inconsistency is super alarming. It's just the inconsistency. And, we used to sit quarterbacks for 3 years and before they'd ever even see the field, but it's a different time. These guys have got to come out of college a whole lot more prepared and pro ready, and see more pro style defenses before they even leave college to be prepared. I think he's got great work ethic and everything, but I think the arrow's trending down, unfortunately, because the best thing going forward is for him to succeed and them to be able to play with those 2 first-round picks that they got.
Yeah. Yeah, you get a franchise quarterback, and then you get those 2 picks to do what you want with them. That would be perfect combo. But, as long as I have defended Justin Fields, I'm not sure. I don't know if I'm as high as 50-50 right now. But like you said, he looks like he looks like a different guy sometimes. So, I mean, there you have it. 50-50 Todd is on Justin Fields right now.
Yeah.
Kind of along the same boat, we talk about your franchise quarterback. Do you think the right GM and head coach is in place right now, or would you like to see something change?
So they kind of have a unique situation at GM where, they got Ryan Poles as the GM. He came over from the Chiefs, obviously. But I don't know that a lot of people outside of the Bears really realize that they have Ian Cunningham, who came over from the Eagles. And, these 2 guys weren't like nobodies. These aren't guys that nobody was talking about for ever becoming GMs in the league or whatever. And they got both of them, and they both came from these teams that basically showed them the blueprint. It's like they've seen this on their own teams, what to do, what moves to do, how to do it. So I think that you've got to believe in what they have there and the knowledge base. Poles came into a situation where the Bears were in absolute cap hell. I mean, just financial cap hell. It was horrible. It was horrible. That's why there's such a huge roster turnover. I saw something the other day. It's like 41 or 42 of the players on the 53-man roster are people he brought in over the last 2 years. It's a huge turnover, obviously. And
it's hard to establish a culture that way.
What's that?
It's hard to establish a culture like that.
Well, sure. And the other thing is, too, is when you're turning over a roster like that, you don't have the depth. It's impossible to have the depth. You're just trying to get bodies on the field and see who pans out. So What makes a bad team bad, in my opinion, is the lack of depth. One guy goes down and there's nobody behind him. I think that's the situation they're in right now. After 2 years, can you say that the GM situation isn't right? I don't think you can. As far as the coaching situation, my opinion on this one is just that you can't stack first-time coaches on each other. So you got a first-time head coach and a first-time OC, along with a first-time GM and first-time assistant GM. It's like people learn in their career, no matter what the career is. I don't care if you're the garbage man or a CEO. You're going to learn during your career. And to expect everybody to learn at once is a tall task. When I see Matt Eberflus, he just looks like a guy who's he's overwhelmed. I mean, he's trying to run the defensive side of the ball and be a head coach, and he's never had to be a head coach before. And he's probably a great guy, probably a great neighbor. He doesn't blow the clippings on the other guy's yard or whatever. I don't know. But I think he's just in over his head. Offensive coordinator, I'm not sold on Getsy, but I'm not out on him either. I think that his offense, I think there's players in the league that could run his offense and be incredibly successful. Every time I see, like, on social media, it's like, what was Getsy thinking with that play? I watch the play, and it's like, that play was just poorly executed by everybody. I mean, the line on out, it's just, you got to execute, and that's what I'm seeing the most of. And what does that boil down to? Talent, scheme, coaching? I don't know, man. I'm at a loss, honestly.
Yeah, I do agree with you when you say 2 years is pretty quick for GM, because I feel like a head coach should be able to establish his culture, his system, whatever he wants to do. I feel like that could get done in a year. But as far as the GM goes, I think you need to give those guys time. Not to mention, you got to give the players that he drafted, you got to give them time, and see if they're anything. Speaking of that, moving on, which young players do you feel good about right now, and which young players on your team were you expecting more out of?
So they drafted in the first round this year Darnell Wright. He's playing right tackle, and man, oh man, just watch tape on him. He's putting, like, big guys on the ground. I mean, he's just, as advertised, just a phenomenal player out of Tennessee. And I know there's a lot of, like, well, my God, should have taken Jalen Carter, but Jalen Carter went to where he should have went. He had to have some established culture around him, I think, to kind of keep him, going on the right path. He would have probably not done well in this culture where they're losing this many games and everything. And if you want to see what your quarterback has, then you got to try to keep him upright somewhat. So the draft pick for Darnell Wright, I think, was great.
Agreed.
Brisker at safety. He's going to be a baller, I think, for years. Javon Dexter Sr. at defensive tackle is a young guy that they drafted this year who's really getting some pressure up front early. So that's good to see too. So those guys I'm pretty excited about. I think my biggest disappointment as far as the young guys was drafted last year, and it's Velus Jones Jr. and he just, I don't know, man. It's like he's kind of a return specialist, and he's muffed more kicks and punts than anybody should ever get the chance to. And to consume a roster spot, to be a specialized guy like that, you'd better be a Devin Hester or something,
Right.
In this day and age. And he's a wide receiver, but he's really, I haven't seen anything worth keeping him on the field at wide receiver. So Velus is kind of a letdown, honestly.
Yeah, he hasn't panned out. Darnell Mooney, who knows? Contract year for him. We'll see what happens with him. Just already traded Claypool. I mean, it's pretty much DJ Moore right now, and maybe a receiver in the draft. Speaking of the draft, if you're the Chicago Bears GM, if you're Ryan Poles going into next year's draft, and you have the first 2 picks in the draft, who are you taking, Todd?
Oh man, you got to believe you got to build it from the trenches. But if honestly, if Justin doesn't show something, if he can get his thumb right and come back and close out the year with consistency, I think you can look elsewhere. I think you can say Justin's going to be the guy, but I think that's an uphill battle. So, oh man, you're really going to have to look at one of the quarterbacks. I don't know who it's going to be at this point. I know who the hype's on. I know the hype's on Williams. I think May's a good quarterback too. But man, I don't know. One way or another, I want Marvin Harrison Jr. on my team. I really do.
Can't blame you there. Him and DJ Moore together, that would be special.
Oh yeah,
that would be awesome. All right, capping off, Todd. Last question. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Is it better? Is it better? You've seen it from both sides. Is it better to be a fan of a bad team? This is emotionally, by the way. Is it better to be a bad team with not really any expectations at all? Or is it better to, have a good team and then get your heart ripped out in the end? What's better for you emotionally?
You'd want to say that you'd rather at least be in the hunt and be able to see your team do good and everything, but it's like the other week when they were playing Washington, it's like they had the big lead, and it's like I was just numb to it because it's like something's going to go wrong and they're going to lose this game, and they didn't lose the game. But so emotionally, that was pretty easy on me. But man, you always want your team to do good, even if it's like you make it all the way down to the Super Bowl and you get blown out. I think it's still better to enjoy that season, see the W's put up on the board, and get to experience that.
I agree totally. I never understood the whole argument of, well, I'd rather just not expect anything. And listen, I was a Rams fan for a long time when they were bad, and I enjoyed it a lot more when they were winning. It's still stressful regardless, but in the end, I mean, it's really fun to have your team. They're talking about your team, and your team's fun to watch. And they're getting those primetime games, which the Bears do have this year. They got a good amount of primetime games actually. But that's all I got, Todd. Once again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for being our first guest and our first guest of Questions with a Fan. Todd, have a great night.
Hey guys, thanks a lot. We'll see you.
Todd. What a guy.
That was awesome. I love that guy.
Todd. Yeah, no, I mean, to comment on the kind of that situation of when your team is bad versus when they're good, expectations and all that. As a Cowboys fan, the years when, I'll just go back to the start of the Romo era. When Romo would get hurt, which we all knew kind of happened frequently, especially when it was the year-long injuries, and then they go and they trade for guys like Matt Castle. You kind of like emotionally, mailed it in at that point. You already know, I don't care how good our roster is, Matt Castle ain't bringing us there. So you go home with no expectations, and you'd still, in the end, it's not as big of a letdown, but those years suck because you go into every game like, probably going to lose this one. It's better to go into games like, for example, last night, I didn't really know who was going to win, the Chargers or the Cowboys game. I thought that was a great game to watch. It ended up being a great game, and we'll get to that later. But it's always more fun. It's always more fun when your team is good.
It is stressful as hell, though. I will tell you that. that Rams Bengals Super Bowl, dude. Actually, the whole Rams playoff run when they won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, I literally did not spend 1 minute sitting down any of those games. And my dad's the same way. So we're watching the game together, and we're both in front of the TV, right in front of it, like this. Can't sit down because it's just like every play is, locked in. Yeah. So it's definitely, once you get to the playoffs, it gets stressful. But definitely would rather see my team good.
You want to hear about a stressful situation? You should have seen that the other night on Sunday when the Bills almost lost to the Giants, bro. The dude, as soon as that incompletion to Waller happened in the back of the end zone, he almost cried out of happiness. Like it was that big for him. So
big beating Tyrod Taylor and the New York Giants.
Well, you know how
we're gonna get into it. We'll have to have him on.
Yeah,
that'd be a fun segment.
Big shout out to Todd. Much appreciated to have him on, and have an insight from a Bears fan. I don't know many Bears fans, but he's always been a real honest, genuine person in general. So great to hear what he thinks about the Bears. So I tell you what, after listening to him, I want to be a Bears fan now.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
No, but that was awesome, man, because just how he starts by talking about his experiences with the teams in the 80s. He's talking about Walter Payton, and he's talking way back, like Dick Butkus, talking about those guys. And for him to have actually seen, Walter Payton play football, because you and I are too young,
Yeah.
So like he saw football before, like in a way where we never experienced. So I
Mhm.
love having conversations with people who've been, into football for, we're talking decades,
Mhm.
and have been, lifelong fans of their team. And that's why I created this segment, is because, I really wanted to, like, hearing him talk about Walter Payton, like how much he meant to him.
Yeah.
And then he's talking about the ups and downs, through, it's been 50 years, just
Right.
about. So it's like he's seen so much. He's dealt with so much when it comes to the Bears. I love that, and I look forward to having other people on talking about their teams who've been around for a minute. So, Tyler, you ready to talk some football or what?
Fuck yeah, dude. Let's get
All
to
right, dude. Let's get after it. London, baby. Let's start off in
Oi,
London.
oi, oi.
Yeah, we hey, London unders 3-0. London unders 3-0.
Love it. I mean, it's the safest bet in football.
It really is. Started off the day absolutely pumped after this game because it was so close in the end. Almost got my heart ripped out of me. But I ended up pulling this one off, so that was good. Tyler, my notes for this game, I want to start off by saying Ryan Tannehill stinks. We're going to get into that. Ryan Tannehill is not a good quarterback, and I've been saying that since he was in Miami, and all the Dolphins fans were defending him when they paid him. He had a cute little playoff run, I'd say, with the Titans a few years back, and then they rewarded him for that, and it's like since then he's been dog shit.
Yeah.
And I mean, I got a feel for Vrabel. Another thing I wrote down was he's literally going to chew a whole can this game because of how stressful, I mean, Ryan Tannehill is making him right now. Like, that dude is going to have dip in his mouth the entire game. On the Ravens side, I thought once again the Ravens offense looked really good early. Lamar started 8 for 9, 118 yards. Started out 7 for 7 to 7 different receivers. But once again, they're not finishing in the red zone. I mean, Justin Tucker ended up with 6 field goals, 4 in the first half. I mean, it's becoming a problem for the Ravens, and their defense played really good too. But they got to start executing in the red zone. Like that's becoming a real issue. Other things I got written down. Titans offense was literally like non-existent. It felt like the only reason they even got points was because of PI calls that they were throwing it to Hopkins and then getting PI calls, and that was advancing them down the field. I feel like there was no juice from the Titans offense at all, outside of maybe Tajay Spears. D-Hop, he had one catch for 20 yards, and I wrote down, I was like, where's DeAndre Hopkins? Because I was like, Tannehill's just not getting him the ball.
Yeah.
Touchdown to Zay Flowers. He got a mismatch on a linebacker that made it 15-3. Derrick Henry, I mean, is it time to start having that conversation where do you get rid of him while you still can?
Values up there.
Are you – yeah. I just don't know, man. I don't know with Derrick Henry anymore because it's like when Spears comes in, you see that he's explosive and he's getting up the field, and I'm not really seeing that with Derrick Henry right now. I know he had a touchdown run, but it doesn't look like the same Derrick Henry to me. And when you combine that with Ryan Tannehill and how he's been playing, their offense is, I mean, I'm starting, what is D-Hop doing going there in the offseason? But other things I got for this game, the Titans were 29th ranked offense in the red zone going into this game, and it just continued. It was field goals both sides. Titans weren't taking advantage. They were stopping the Ravens in the red zone, but the Titans couldn't score either. It's 18-6. Kyle Hamilton got ejected in this game for a hit on Chris Moore, and I thought that was going to be like a real momentum changer, and that was when Henry scored the touchdown, and they made it 18-13. But second half, I didn't see anything from Tannehill once again. Throws up a lollipop interception, dude. That was one of the worst picks that I saw over the weekend. And it was at that point in the game when he threw that lollipop interception, I was just like, all right, you drafted Malik Willis. You drafted Will Levis. I mean, the clock's got to be ticking on this guy. I mean, your team is right there in every game. They're right there, but they just can't get the play from the quarterback. And it's getting to a point with me where it's like I'm starting to lose faith for Vrabel, seeing this continue and him not doing anything about it. And then finally, camera pans to Ryan Tannehill, and he's like backed up, and Malik Willis is getting ready to go in the game, and I'm like, did they just bench Tannehill? And then I found out it's an injury. I'm like, oh, it's an injury. But either way, dude, I think the Titans are better for it. I mean, they got a little something going. Willis came in, and at least gives him a little threat. He's not. I saw him make he completed one ball, like his first pass of the game, and I was like, all right, a little juice. I had like a little feeling going, and then maybe it is Will Levis. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is Will Levis. It should be Will Levis. I don't know, dude. I'm just at this point, it's like anybody except Tannehill. I feel like he's had his chances. He's had his chances. It's time to move on.
What I just seeing Willis when he came in, like the dude. Not only is the Titans' offensive line bad, but on top of that, Willis could not get rid of the ball. In a situation where you can't take a sack, he took 2 of them.
You're talking about later. I'm talking about the first drive.
Yeah.
I'm talking about right away.
The very first drive.
Yeah,
I thought you were talking about
I'm talking about right away.
I've heard that. Sorry about that. But yeah,
I'm not saying Malik Willis is the savior by any means. I'm just talking like initially when he first came in the game, I had a little juice to me. Like, all right, maybe this Titans offense can get it going a little bit.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'd like rip one, right? Dude's got a cannon. Send D-Hop deep. Yeah. Or you know what? Speaking of disappointments, where is Traylon Burks been? Like, what are they doing with him?
Hurt.
He's hurt right now.
Yeah.
And you know what? That may kind of reinforces my point I'm about to make about their usage with D-Hop. Like, you can't go from getting that dude 8 catches, 140 yards last week, and then have him go 2 catches for 25 yards or 2 catches for 20 yards, whatever it was. It's like,
so bad.
He is by far up and away your best offensive player. Okay, other than maybe Henry, who I think we can agree is starting to hit that decline. But I don't care how old Hopkins is. Like, that's your best player, your best receiver by far. You find a way to get him the ball. Just find a way to get the ball in his hands, target him. Tannehill's bad. That offensive line is even worse. Henry, it's a mixture. At a back who's that big, they're especially with as many carries as he's been getting throughout his career, like, it's going to take a toll on him physically. And, it's I kind of just been way, as sad as it is to say, I've just kind of been waiting for that decline to happen. As good as he has been, I just know that it was coming soon. And I think he still has obviously some juice, but it's just not as, he's not as quick, and maybe it's part of the D line or the offensive line being really bad. But, I feel like at some point those are just excuses. Either way, some of the things I saw in this game are just terrible. Really, like, I agree with you. Lamar looks sharp, especially to start. They had that shoestring tackle on Aguilar in that first drive that saved the touchdown.
He almost broke one. Dude, I thought when I saw that, I was like, that's Aguilar?
Yeah.
I was like, what? I did not know he had that burst in him. I thought he was gone. I was like, who is that? I thought it was Hollywood Brown back on the Ravens for a second.
Yeah. Just Aguilar. And then what's so funny about him is he did what classic Aguilar does. Lamar threw him a dime down the field, probably would have been a touchdown, right through his hands. I was like, dude, that's Aguilar back in Philly. Like, the dude just has a habit of dropping wide open deep balls. It's just who he is, and it's unfortunate, but he's really adopted that. But all I had other than that on this game, ton of field goals, not a whole lot to take away other than the red zone struggles for both teams. But it's how bad Tannehill looked in certain situations. Like before I get to that, the whole, the thing with Tannehill, like back when he was in Miami, I didn't think he was that bad. I don't think he was good enough to get that contract. I just think Miami was desperate for just a starting quarterback that they were willing to give him that. He was the best option for them at the time, other than trying to go through the draft and rebuild. But he, like, to me, he's in that same category, that same tier as like a Kirk Cousins. I like at this point right now, you're like, who would you rather have, Kirk or Tannehill? Like, 9 out of 10, I feel like people are going to take Kirk Cousins, but I feel like they're in that same ballpark. They can get a team to the playoffs. They can maybe get a win in the playoffs, but it's only probably as far as their defense is going to take them. And that's kind of like how Tannehill, you said he went on that one run. It's because of the Titans D mostly, and I guess you could say Derrick Henry too. They had an elite run game, but sometimes Tannehill is just that bad, right? There was a clear the pass interference on one of those drives. I can't remember, but it ended up getting revoked. They took away the penalty because the ball was just uncatchable. And when they showed the replay, I'm sitting there in my head. When you first see the pass, sometimes you're like, oh, come on, that's not uncatchable. And you look at the replay, that was terrible. The ball was thrown 10 yards over Hopkins' heads. Like, you could have had Wembanyama down there on a step ladder, and if he had a 40-inch vertical, he might have been able to get his hand on the ball. Like, it was that bad of a throw. And then not only that, they ran 2 plays in a row, both kind of fade routes to Hopkins. That was the first. I think that was the second one. But there was another fade that he threw to Hopkins before that. And that one, there was no penalty or anything, but that one was way over his head too. Just 2 uncatchable balls in a row to Hopkins. So at least like they tried to go at him, but you got to give him a better ball. Like, just give him a chance, and he didn't. Tannehill just didn't even give him a chance. 2 throws in a row. So there was that one pick. There might have been that lollipop pick you're talking about that Tannehill threw later in the third quarter. So to give everyone the situation and like the scope of where they are, it's a close game. It's 3rd and short. He had Henry. I can't remember if it was play action or not, but he had Henry wide open in the flat. And what does he do on 3rd and short? Rips the throw down the field. Did the receiver have a step? Like, if you look at the play, yeah, the receiver did have a step, but that's besides the point, right? So not only did you make the wrong read, you ended up throwing it to the guy down the field, and then he underthrows it. Just threw a lollipop of a ball, and it gets picked. So missed the read for the first down, and then missed the throw for the guy that he chose to throw it to. So tough to watch, honestly. That was really that their offense sometimes is just it's so hard to watch because of how bad Tannehill's been this year and how bad their offensive line is. So sometimes I feel like when Tannehill finally gets something clicking and he gets something going, he'll just take a sack or something because he has no time to throw the ball. So it's just a mixed bag of problems that Vrabel's got to figure out. But that was a big juicy bet that hit. That's all that matters. That's all I'm going to take away from this.
Nice.
And we're going to go on the
Titan. You know who the Titans could really use on their offense?
Who?
AJ Brown.
Yeah.
They could really use AJ Brown on that offense.
Yeah, they could. That's funny.
But on the other side, the Ravens. You talk about Aguilar having the dropping habit. It's not only him. It's all the Ravens receivers.
It's contagious.
I don't understand it. Like, Lamar is putting the ball. You look at his stat lines, and you're like, Lamar can't throw. Lamar's not a good pocket passer.
Mm-hmm.
All right, watch the game.
Yeah,
watch the game, and then tell me that. All right.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all we got on that game. Let's move on to the Cleveland Browns upsetting the San Francisco 49ers 19-17. I took the L on this one. Big juicy bet. Credit to the Browns defense. I knew that they were good. I did not think that they were this good. 49ers started out the game, scored on their opening drive like they always do. And I was like, all right, this is a route.
Yep.
But then there was just nothing else from the offense. McCaffrey ends up getting hurt. Debo gets hurt. Trent Williams gets banged up. They lose Greenlaw on defense. But listen, there's no excuse because the Browns are playing without Deshaun Watson and Nick Chubb. They had PJ Walker in there, Ford. And they did what they had to do to win. It took a couple 49ers missed field goals on top of that. They could have potentially won the game. But great win for the Browns defense regardless. And I have had Brock Purdy's back to this point, but that was not a great performance out of QB1 for the San Francisco 49ers. It wasn't. I don't care that, Debo wasn't there. McCaffrey got hurt. He just did not look sharp. Ayuk had a couple good plays for him. He made some nice throws at Ayuk. But overall, it was just not good for Brock Purdy. And the Browns did what they had to do offensively. Stefanski drew up some little gadget plays, end around to Marcus Goodwin, got him a good chunk. Just mixing in a few different things to do what they have to do to move the ball in that 49ers defense. And I thought this was really a coming out game for Amari Cooper because I feel like since he went to Cleveland, he just kind of like everybody forgets about Amari Cooper, It's just like another guy now. And I thought that performance that he had yesterday was really his coming out party in Cleveland. And he's one of the main reasons why the Browns ended up winning that game. Had a huge 58-yard pickup that later resulted in a Kareem Hunt touchdown that put the Browns up. And there was a play in this game, PJ Walker getting sacked, and he flipped the ball, and they said it was an incompletion on the field. But it looked like a fumble to me. It looked like the fumble to the announcers. And they didn't even look at it. I mean, that you can't. That's why they say don't blow the whistle, refs. Don't blow the whistle, let it play out because you never know. I mean, are you that certain when you blew that whistle that was a forward pass? There's no way in hell. So just swallow your whistle, man. And we could have a different result that game. But either way, I mean, shout out to Cleveland because they really made it sloppy for that 49ers offense. And they did enough on offense. I mean, when your defense is playing that good, you basically as an offense, you just don't want to throw the game away. You just want to take your chances where you can get them, in the right spots. And Browns pull it out 19-17.
To touch on the Cooper thing, before I even get to that, the penalty, or not the penalty, the no fumble, the intentional grounding, I think they did review it. I think they did actually, and that's what makes it that much worse is like I think they did take a look at it.
One of those quick reviews?
Yeah, because either way they talked about how, because they didn't throw the flag initially for intentional grounding. And I think they took a little bit to look at this because I remember just thinking about it. I'm like, there's no way they don't call this a fumble. There's just no shot. And they called it intentional grounding. Like my thing is, I'm like, is that a football play to just underhand toss the ball forward for an incompletion? Like, is that really a football play? Is that a pass? And so for the refs to do that, and then, on top of that, Jake Moody hasn't missed a kick all year, and then he misses 2, including the chip shot to win the game. So I think all the cards fell in the right place for Cleveland to win this game, and I don't want to take anything away from them. Their defense played outstanding the rest of the game other than that first drive that you pointed out, which, by the way, everybody who scored that first touchdown, Christian McCaffrey, fucking book it every week unless the guy's hurt. Book it. The dude's going to score a touchdown in this offense every single week. If he doesn't, fluke. Bet it the next week. So that was another thing I took away from this. It was a little rainy in the game. So
sloppy.
I get that. I'm looking at Purdy's numbers, and we kind of talked about it on some previous episodes where you mentioned how I was commenting early in the year on Purdy's accuracy, and then he kind of had a couple games in a row, including that Dallas game where he was just dropping dimes all over the place. And it was kind of like, all right, well maybe maybe he's cleaned it up and whatnot, and maybe it was a timing issue. But then you had this game, and it just brought me right back, and I'm like, this is kind of what I was seeing. Not to that extent, of course, but
To counter though, that was a great defense that the
mm-hmm.
Browns put on the field. I mean, you're in the dog pound, and it's shitty outside. And let's relax because it's literally like he hasn't even started a full season in the NFL yet. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like that
Yeah.
was the first regular season game the dude has lost. So it's like I understand he played like shit and all this, but I think people are just so quick to just be like, see, he's not he's not that good. He's not that good. He's just got a good team. It's like, bro, the guy is allowed to have a bad game. Like, are we watching? Like, did you see Josh Allen again this week? Like, nobody's
Mm-hmm.
going to argue he's a great quarterback, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
allowed to have a bad game. I mean, he's not getting paid what Josh Allen's getting paid. We're going to get into that. But
Not even close.
I mean, the dude he hasn't even started a full regular season yet. Like, let's slow down. That's his first loss. The only
Mm-hmm.
other loss in his career was because his shoulder got hurt. You know what I mean? So
Good point. Good point. Yes, but keep an eye on that. That's my only Brock Purdy
or his elbow.
criticism.
Was it his elbow?
It was something. So I can't even, honestly,
Yeah.
I don't remember. But that's my only kind of like Brock Purdy criticism, so to speak, is that sometimes I feel like the ball gets away from him and his accuracy just isn't that great. But don't get me wrong, the kid's a baller. I love his game. I love what he brings to the table. But like I said, my only little criticism on him is sometimes his accuracy is an issue. He's not the only quarterback in the league who has that. So,
He
but
deserves
looking
it.
at the
He
numbers,
deserves it a little bit though, because it was a bad performance, and you got to pick your team up. But
yeah, and especially when your running back goes out. But like you said, he hasn't even played a full year yet. It's sometimes hard to carry the load, so to speak. But he went 12 of 27 for 125 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick against a really good defense. That is probably going to be his worst game all year. I don't think he's going to have another performance as bad as this one. I don't expect that out of him or this offense, to be honest with you. The one thing that I didn't like about what they did, and Shanahan almost always does a great job, like they just got away from the run. As soon as McCaffrey got hurt, they stopped running the football. McCaffrey had 11 carries. I think this was all in the first half. I think he got hurt sometime in the second quarter because I know he definitely didn't come out and play in the second half. Jordan Mason, the backup, only had 5 carries. Ray McLeod, who is a receiver, right?
mm-hmm.
He's like a receiver return man. He had 2 carries. Debo, another receiver, 2 carries before he got hurt. And then Elijah Mitchell, 2 carries for -3 yards. Like, is it me, or do they just kind of like not trust Elijah Mitchell anymore? Do they not think he's that go-to backup? Like, it seems like Jordan Mason is that guy now. Like he's the guy backing up McCaffrey. So by the way, fantasy owners out there, Jordan Mason might be a pickup. He might be a pickup. He did have a touchdown on the day too, so he might be the guy that you get. I know everyone was stashing Elijah Mitchell to start the year. Maybe Jordan Mason's that guy you get. But other than that, like, I know Brandon Ayuk had a pretty bad drop in the game. It was just kind of like a down game for the Niners. I don't anticipate them having another game like to this magnitude. They still, the crazy part is, like, they still had a shot to win. And Moody, he barely missed the kick. That's my boy. He barely missed the kick, but he fucking missed it. And he cost them the game. He missed 2 of them. So I think they'll bounce back. I don't even know who they play next week, but I think they'll bounce back.
Yeah, they actually play in Minnesota on Monday night, so
blowout.
It's a bounce back. That is a bounce back. All right, moving on. Let's talk about the Commanders-Falcons. Commanders pull it off on the road, 24-16. You called it. You love the Commanders in this game. Falcons, we're talking about the ups and downs, the roller coaster that is Desmond Ritter. Early, got a nice little RPO. Kyle Pitts for a touchdown, put him up 7-0. He had some throws to Drake London where Drake London saved his ass by making, just a great catch. And he might be, we talk about DeAndre Hopkins. You just got to put it in his radius. I feel like Drake London is like that. He is like that. Like Drake London is special. And I thought that there was a good little connection going on, and then everything just fell apart for that offense. Arthur Smith started getting frustrated on the sidelines. I saw the camera picked him up just saying, just throw it. When Ritter takes a sack on like a 3rd and 1, they do a little play action boot, and the dude takes a sack for like a 10-yard loss. And just like that, you're not going for it. And it's like, that we talk about processing, and that's something you got to do as a quarterback in the NFL. And not only that, but I just thought his accuracy at times, decision-making was not good. Ended up with 3 picks. And after last week, we kind of had like is Desmond Ritter the guy? We were feeling relatively good. Maybe the best ever been. Not sold. By no means we weren't sold. But that was probably the peak of how we felt about Desmond Ritter collectively. And then he went out there and he shit the bed. That was not a good performance with them. And you got to wonder, is it getting to be that Taylor Heineke moment? Because the NFC South, dude, is just there for the taking. It's just there for the taking. And it can be the Falcons, but are you really gonna sabotage the chances of that to, try to develop a young quarterback that may or may not be the guy? But more signs are pointing to the fact that he's probably not that guy. And you have a guy that's capable, on your roster to lead that team, which is a good team. That's a good team.
Mm-hmm.
On the Commanders side, Curtis Samuel scored another touchdown, went up 17-7. Calais Campbell, shout out, 100th career sack. Calais Campbell's been doing it for a long time, so congratulations.
What's his nickname? Is it the judge or the mayor?
Yeah, I think it's the mayor, yeah.
The mayor? Let's go.
What was it, from his time in Jacksonville, I think it was?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
No, that dude he's been doing it for a long time. So that's awesome. 100 career sacks for him. In the end, though, it ended up being Sam Howell getting his 3rd touchdown on a screen pass, Brian Robinson, that put him up. Another thing I wrote down was that sack I already talked about, where it's 3rd and short late in the game, and you just can't take a sack. I mean, throw it away. If anything, that's worst case scenario in that situation. That has to be worst case scenario, is throwing it away on the part of Desmond Ritter. Late in the game, Falcons made it 24-16. Defense held up, kept them in it. The Falcons' defense is not bad. I'm so used to seeing their defenses play bad, but it's not a bad unit. They held up late in this game. They gave their guys a chance. They gave Desmond Ritter a chance. And ultimately, they couldn't come away with it. So Commanders ended up beating them, getting back on track after that loss to the Bears. What'd you take away from this game?
Can I give a bit of a shout out to someone I never thought I would be giving a shout out to? One of your boys.
Let me hear it.
And I think he got traded there this year, Jeff Okudah. I mean,
yeah.
Okudah, from the times that I've seen him play this year, I feel like he's done a real good job, and like I see him step up in the run game and make some nice tackles too. Like someone who couldn't stay healthy for the Lions, and it's crazy because you look at where the Lions' defense is this year, and it kind of makes you wonder, like, what if they didn't trade Okudah and Okudah stayed healthy? Like, how much better could that defense be? And maybe the answer is not much better. Maybe it's a lot better. I mean, you never know. So kind of a pointless question, but it just makes you wonder. But I'm glad to see that he's healthy and at least making an impact in some way for that defense. Their defense is better than expected, but I think it helps when you have another corner opposite of AJ Terrell who can not shut guys down, but just make it tough on opposing receivers. And that Commander receiving core is no joke. I mean, I really love McLaurin. I like Dotson. He had a drop or two in the game that was tough, but I think overall, moving forward, he's a good young receiver. And then Curtis Samuel is just one of those guys that can be like an unsung hero, where people don't really give him the credit he deserves. But all around, he's just a really good player. He can do a lot of different things for an offense. And then Logan Thomas is one of those just veteran tight ends who just gets it done. And he gives you what you need out of the position week to week. So they got a lot of good, and then the two backs. So they got a lot of good pieces around how the offensive line is really the only thing that the Commanders need to try to shore up. Other than that, they have everything else they need on the offensive side of the ball. They got a good D line. D backs are okay. Linebackers are shaky, but good win for them. Yeah, good win for them. The Falcons, they're a quarterback away. So to answer the question, is it Taylor Heineke time? Like I I said it week one, unfairly not really giving Desmond Ritter a chance. I was like, dude, just fucking put Heineke in after watching Ritter for I think it was a game or two. Even though the Falcons, I think, started the year 2-0, I was like, dude, why are they not playing Taylor Heineke? So where, because I can't remember, where did they take Ritter? Like what
I
pick, what
believe it was
round was
second round. I think it was second round,
it?
second
A
or third
second
round.
round pick? Because where did he play
It
his
was.
college
I think it
ball
was
again?
second. Cincinnati.
Cincinnati. Yeah, just I don't know. You think he's got the? He looks like he's got the tools. He's got the the physical tools. He can move. He's mobile. He's got a solid arm. The guy just can't. I don't want to say he can't win football games because it's not like they're 0-6 to start the year, but I don't know. It's just like when you watch him, you're like, this guy just isn't it. Like he's not the answer to this team. And I'm not going to sit here and say Taylor Heineke is, you know, amazing. I think Taylor Heineke is a very solid quarterback. I would throw in that same boat as like Gardner Minshew, someone who's capable of starting on probably a lower end team in the league. Like they're kind of like that QB1 slash second quarterback role, right? They're going to be one of the best backups in the league who can be a journeyman, but almost like a Marcus Mariota, you know. Either
Yeah,
way,
who was
I
there
say
last
yeah.
year?
Yeah. I say yeah. I mean, how much more patience can you have? Because that's what it comes down to from the coaching perspective. Like this is what they did last year. They they played the veteran quarterback, right? They played Mariota. He wasn't getting the job done, and eventually, once they were out of playoff contention, they were like, "Hey, Mariota, we're going to give Ritter a shot. We're going to see what he's got. We're kind of mailing it in this year. We don't really have a shot to make the playoffs, so let's give the kid a shot, see how he does." I don't think he did terrible, but this year he's not doing good to start, and we're through 6 weeks. You probably don't know. I was going to ask when their bye week was. Maybe that's when they make the change. Maybe they hit the bye week, they throw Heineke in there, give him all the first team snaps, and then just let him run the offense for 2 weeks and see how he does on that first game after the bye week. I don't see Ritter leading them to the playoffs unless he turns a corner. Like I don't see it happening. And when you have the running backs that you have the offensive line that you got Pitts, Drake London, the defense is playing really well. This is kind of like another almost a Broncos situation where the Broncos were like, hey, we have everything we need. We just need a quarterback. And then they go and make the trade for Russell Wilson, which is very controversial, but
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I don't
As
know.
an
I just kind of,
organization, though, as an organization, good organizations know, they know how to move off people who aren't going to help them win. Like they're
yeah,
willing, like Howie Roseman, for example, he's willing to accept, like Jalen Rager. He's not good. We know we invested in him, but we
right.
know he's not a good fit, so we're going to get rid of him. Like good organizations know how to do that. Bill Belichick, perfect example. Bill Belichick is the king at this. Like it's not like it's a business at the end of the day. And that's so if you look at the Falcons, Kyle Pitts hit, Bijan Robinson hit, Drake London hit, Desmond Ritter miss. Cut your
Yeah,
losses, and
Mm-hmm.
put the guy in that is going to give those three guys the best chance to succeed in that offense, playing with a defense that's playing a lot better than people expected, than both of us expected. But let's move on. Let's get to the Cincinnati Bengals defeating the Seattle Seahawks 17-13 at home. Another one I took the L on because Seattle just continued to fall apart in the red zone. Some notes I got on this. Kenneth Walker jumped out to 7-0 lead with a touchdown to start the game off. Cincinnati answered with a Tyler Boyd touchdown, 7-7. And another thing I wrote down was Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase look locked in right now, like just like I saw last week. Like I thought I saw that again. Like Jamar Chase was fully engaged in this game right away. And you have to get these guys, these special receivers involved early, keep them in the game. And I thought those two had a great start. Bengals go up 14-7. Another thing I wrote down, Tyler, is DK Metcalf continuing to hurt his team.
Be a diva.
These personal foul penalties. I see it every time they play against the Rams. I mean, this dude he just doesn't know how to handle his emotions at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's like people want to talk shit about Stephon Diggs doing shit on the sideline or whatever. It's like, okay, that's fine. Like he's not hurting your team by doing that. DK Metcalf's out there, just constantly letting his emotions get the best of him and hurting his team. And then one of the biggest unwritten rules of football is don't show up your quarterback. So DK runs a good route, credit to him, gets open, could have been a touchdown. Geno misses him, and then he's putting his arms up and he's going like that to his quarterback, waving him off, and then just walking pissed off on the sideline. That is so bad. That is so bad for and Pete Carroll. I mean, for him to just continue to allow this shit, like.
Soft.
I can't stand when guys put their QB on. Like that's something, save it for the sideline and figure it out there. Like for you to put your quarterback on blast and that looks so bad. You look so bad as a professional athlete doing that. I have no respect for that. Also in this game, Seahawks got a pick first drive to open up the second half. Excuse me. Bobo. Who is Bobo? This Bobo cat for Seattle. He had a couple of huge catches, set Seattle up. I thought Smith and Jigma was getting open this game, and Geno just refused to look his way for whatever reason. I said last episode, like they got to start getting him going, and he's getting open, and it's like Geno is just not looking at him. I don't know what's going on there. And then talk about ultimately what ended this game is them not being able to get rid of the ball, get any plays developed, because Cincinnati's pass rush just completely took over that game. Cincinnati's D-line just said every time Seattle got a little momentum late in that game, Cincinnati's D-line just said, no, we're going to win this game. We're going to take this game over right now. And they did not allow Seattle to do anything in the red zone. Part of that is Seattle, but a huge part of that is Cincy's pass rush, because the Bengals offense, we didn't talk about the second half. They didn't do much, and their defense put it on, they put it on themselves to win that game, and they did. So credit to the Bengals pass rush. Seattle could have at least kicked one field goal. They could have got the ball back, kicked another field goal, but they didn't. Just one field goal I would have covered, but hey, that's the business.
Yeah, hindsight's 2020, obviously. I mean, you look back at it, which that first fourth down that they went for it on, it's not like it was 4th and inches or 4th and 2. It was like 4th and 7, but it was just the feel. It was like the feel of the game that they weren't getting a ton, generated on offense.
Couldn't block.
Right. They couldn't block. And they finally get down there. I think they was it a penalty or a sack that brought them back to like 4th and 18 or whatever, or 3rd and 18, excuse me. And then they got like a 10 to 12 yard gain to set them up with like a 4th and medium to 4th and long, and they went for it. Because I was talking to Matt, he was watching the games with us, and when they got that play, he was like, "You think they're going to go for it?" And I said, "Absolutely." And they did. They went for it, and they didn't get it. They could have kicked the field goal, like you mentioned, and then they get the ball back, which I think certain coaches kind of go in with the expectation like you can't assume that you're going to get the ball back. It's almost like when you're playing blackjack and the dealer's showing a face, like you have to assume they're going to have another face under that, or that when the dealer has at least a 7 or higher, you assume they're going to have a 17 or higher. They're going to have that face. So I think it's kind of like that. It could be a terrible analogy, I don't know, but it kind of seems like that's the mindset with some of these coaches, is like you can't assume, or you have to assume, that you're not going to get the ball back sometimes late in the fourth quarter when you're finally down near the red zone. Either way, though, they, like you mentioned, that Bengals defense stepped up and they won the game for them. We were on opposite sides of this. I took the Bengals -3. You had the Seahawks +3. It could have very easily went the Seahawks' way. They just missed in the red zone. I think that DK Metcalf is such a diva. I said it out loud. I don't think Matt knew what I was talking about, but I was just like, he's such a bitch. Just out loud watching the game, I said, he's such a bitch. And then Matt asked me something, and I go, no, just he's such a diva. Everything that he does on the field, his body language, the way he acts, the way he shows up his quarterback, like
It's all about him.
what if Bill Belichick was the coach? Like, is DK Metcalf even on the Seattle Seahawks at that point? I feel like a coach with like some real balls would have him like acting right, and if he's not, they could get a lot of capital for DK Metcalf, and I honestly don't think that they really even need him on that offense. I think he's a special player. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a great receiver, but everything that comes with it, you got Lockett, you got Smith and Jigba, who I think is going to be real good. Bobo steps up. He's the guy that nobody knows of who plays well, dude. That guy can catch. He can catch in traffic. You need somebody to make that third down catch and take a hit, throw it to Bobo. Tight ends, I don't think they have bad tight ends either. Geno Smith is figuring it out this year. They're going through some, I guess you could say, I don't want to even call it struggles, but this was one of those games where they did struggle. So they're 3-2 on the year now because they had their bye week already.
They got to figure out. They got to figure out that O-line, that protection scheme, because that ain't
exactly
it. Like you got to give your quarterback a chance. In the end, he didn't even have a chance.
Exactly.
But going back to that situation, they still had 2 timeouts and the 2-minute warning. The way I'm seeing it is, you're not blocking the Bengals pass rush right now. It's 4th and 7. And to your defense's credit, they've been doing a good job, Joe Burrow, in the second half. I just think like the probabilities of you getting that the way you couldn't protect, I mean, kick the field goal and see what happens. Like I said, you got 2 timeouts, you got the 2-minute warning, and all you need is a field goal after that. Just trust your defense. And Pete continues to, I mean, he's a player's coach, so that's common in Seattle. I've been saying it for years. They got all these guys just doing what they want, getting away with it. That's Seattle's culture. But I still think Seattle's a good team, and they just have to figure out that red zone, and they have to figure out their scheme offensively, protecting Geno. I think that's all. The only other thing I had from this game is people need to start putting some respect on Cam Taylor-Britt, corner for the Bengals. He's a really good corner. And then Dax Hill, their safety from Michigan, baller.
Yes.
Jesse Bates is helping out Atlanta a lot. He's made that defense a lot better. I thought that was going to be a huge loss for Cincy, and it looked like that early in the season. But it looks like Dax Hill's, he's out there. He's a player. And then shout out to Cam Taylor-Britt. He gets another pick. He had the pick 6 last week too. So guys making plays in that secondary. Moving on to our AFC South matchup, Jaguars 37, Colts 20. Jags get a win at home, take control of the AFC South. Early in this game, the Colts had like an hour-long drive to start this game. They had an 8-minute drive to start the game where Minshew was 9 for 11 for 56 yards, but they only get a field goal out of it. So it's like you take all that time off the clock, you run that many plays, and then you only get 3. That's a big letdown to start the game for your team, I think. Yeah, it's awesome you held the ball for that long, but Jacksonville stopping you in the red zone, you only getting 3 out of it. I think that's emotionally, that's a big letdown to start that game. And let's be real, that was after that they couldn't protect Minshew. Jags pass rush was all over him. Josh Allen, another great game for them. I thought the defense played really good. I thought the offense played good enough. ETN continues to light it up. I mean, if you have Travis Etienne in fantasy right now, you got to be pleased with what he's been doing.
Oh, yeah.
Josh Allen, speaking of, he had a strip sack, and that resulted in one of ETN's 2 touchdowns on the day. That made it 14-3. I wrote down, Jags defense is getting after Minshew. He threw a really bad interception under pressure to Andre Sisco. Shout out Syracuse in that game. And that made it 21-3 after a touchdown to Christian Kirk. I thought Lawrence was spreading the ball around really well in that game. I thought he was getting everybody involved, everybody invested in that offense. And when things are clicking for that offense, they look really good. Another thing I wrote down was the Jags were really stopping the Colts on the ground. They had 191 yards, the Colts did last week. And the Jags just completely shut them down rushing the ball. And if you don't allow the Colts to run the ball, especially with a backup quarterback, I mean, you're making it real tough on them. So credit the Jags for that. Minshew, another bad interception late in that game to Rayshon Jenkins. Jags ended up going up 31-6. It got a little more interesting at the end, but ultimately the Jags were in full control of this game.
Yeah, it just I saw Minshew make some just really bad throws, like just really bad throws for interceptions that just were drive killers, of course. And I think if he made better throws and didn't turn the ball over, it was more of a game. But the Jags run defense has been great all year. I think that's the strength of their defense, is the ability to stop the run. And then on passing downs, you let Josh Allen in his contract year get after the quarterback. Right now, it looks like the Jags are starting to click. Right, early in the year, it didn't seem like the offense was clicking. The defense was playing well enough to keep them in games and win them games, but the offense just wasn't quite there. And then it was that game against the Bills where you finally started to see Lawrence like actually look comfortable, spread the ball around, make good throws. They were keeping a clean pocket for him. And I honestly thought with their travel coming home, they were going to have a little bit of a like a layover. And they didn't. They played really well on both sides of the ball until late in the game, which I kind of feel like at that point they had already mentally won the game. So they kind of just
they took their foot off the pedal a little bit defensively.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, other than that, I'd like to see the Colts. I know they're slowly doing it, but get Jonathan Taylor more involved in the run game. He had the one pass down. It was like, I think it was not a broken play, but I think Gardner hit him on like a little drag route out of the backfield or something like that, and he ran it for like 50 yards. And then I think that same drive, and then Gardner threw a pick, like the next play or something like that. He threw a really bad ball and it was intercepted and just killed the drive. So, yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that I have about the Colts is Richardson, right? I saw an update. They said that he might possibly he's pondering season-ending surgery. And I think that's tough, especially as a Colts fan, having someone look so promising as the 4th overall pick or 3rd overall pick, wherever they took him. And Then he ends up getting hurt. Not only had the concussion early, but he comes back and then hurts his shoulder the first game back. And now he might just miss the entire year. So as a Colts fan, that's tough.
Yeah, Irsay's talking about it now too.
Yeah, so that's tough. I feel bad for him because I really like the kid, and I hope that the injury is not as bad as it's made out to be. But yeah, I think that the Colts are kind of looking, like they're going to come out as the favorites in the division, which was kind of the preseason pick.
The Jags.
The Jags. Yeah, the Jags were kind of the preseason pick to win the division. It looks like they're going to end up pulling it out. The team's just starting to click. The offense is moving the ball. They're running it well. So, yeah, credit to the Jags.
Agreed. All right. Miami Dolphins 42, Carolina Panthers 21. Dolphins started out this game with a 3-and-out. Carolina drove the ball down the field. Chuba Hubbard touchdown, 7-0 Panthers. Miami 3-and-out. And then they get a touchdown of Thielen to make it 14-0. And I immediately wrote down Tyler was right. Because you had Carolina plus 14.5, and I thought you were crazy. And you were talking about this maybe being a letdown game for Miami where they kind of be sleepwalking a little bit. And I was like, yeah, I'd say they're sleepwalking right now. But I want to give you a stat. They had 2 3-and-outs to start the game. And then after that, they had 3 consecutive touchdown drives. And they didn't give up anything on defense. So, I mean, it was 14-0 off the bat. And then, boom, it's 21-14. Miami's on top. Tyreek Hill just continues. I mean, guy's unbelievable. Doing backflips, celebrating with the camera in his hand after scoring a touchdown. I mean, you can't say enough about Tyreek Hill and what he brings to that offense. Mostert looked amazing once again. He had a touchdown, put it up 28-14. After that, I didn't have much for this game. Panthers went for it on a 4th and 1 in the red zone. I thought it was a really bad play call. They didn't get it. Then Mostert ended up getting his 3rd touchdown. That made it 35-14, and they later won 42-21. I mean, I don't have much else to say about this game. I mean, Miami continues to do what they do. Carolina looked good for a little bit, and then, I mean, the better team, a lot better team, ended up winning, and it showed.
Yeah, and it kind of came like early, like you mentioned. The Panthers started out 14-0, and it looked like the week of the upsets. Panthers. I mean, we didn't know that at the time because the 49ers game. I think that was a 1:00 game. So 49ers at that time were up, so they looked fine. The Eagles game wasn't until 4. Bills wasn't until later. But this was another one. It was just like the Dolphins being the heavy favorite. Carolina goes up 14-0. I blame my dad. My dad was in the kitchen eating pizza and wings, talking to Nikki. Carolina's doing their thing. They're balling up 14-0 early. He comes in, gives the old clap, rubs the hands like this, ready to watch the game. I'm like, damn, Dad, you guys are down big to start early. And he goes, well, keyword early. I was like, yep, that's fair. And then what happens? 3 touchdowns in a row. I was like, God damn it. But for betting purposes, I actually gave it a slight tease because I think they were given Carolina 13.5 throughout the week, and then eventually towards Sunday that line crept up to 14.5, and that's where I really liked it. I was like, 13.5, I was like, yeah, kind of like it. If it gets to 14.5, then I really like it. And then I even gave it a little tease to 17.5, right? So I gave the tease to 17.5, and on that last Miami drive, they have it 3rd and goal from like the 8-yard line. I'm like, all right, Carolina, don't give up a touchdown here. I don't care if Miami gets to the 2-yard line. They're probably going to kick the field goal. And what happens? They give it to Ahmed, and he runs for like a 7 or 8 yard touchdown. Yeah. I was like, oh, that was the backbreaker. So if they would have just stopped them there, then that would have been another hit. And that's the one thing I wanted to talk about, which is the takeaway from this, other than that Carolina's bad, Miami's really good. That's all we need to know. Everyone knows that already. But don't be afraid if you're a bettor. Do not be afraid to tease. If you need to tease the line a little bit because you're just not confident enough, in the Vegas line, tease it. I think the biggest thing that kind of pushes people away from teasing the line is the get back value, right? So you're minus 110 at 14.5, you put it to 17.5. Yeah, you're not going to get that 2-1 or close to it, but as long as you feel more comfortable about the bet, and sometimes it hits, right? Sometimes it doesn't. Like I got fucked over either way. I teased at 3 and I still lost. But the Titans game, I liked once that line got moved to 8.5. I liked it a lot, and I was going to take, or I'm sorry, 5.5. I liked it a lot, and I was going to take it at 5.5. And then I was like, you know what though? I think the Ravens are going to come out. They're going to play well. So I did a slight tease. I moved it to 8.5, and the 8.5 is ultimately what hit because they end up losing by 8. So sometimes, given that slight tease, even if you do like the line, it can save your ass. And in that case, it did save my ass. And if Miami didn't score that touchdown, it would have saved my ass again in the Miami game. So do not be afraid to tease.
Very good point for the people. Moving on, let's get to the Saints-Texans. Texans pull it off, 20-13. CJ Stroud. Another one. 3-3 on the year for the Houston Texans. I mean, the Saints did miss some field goals, though. I mean, Bailey Group or Groupie, whatever it is. I mean,
Groupie.
I don't know. He had a 29-yard field goal miss in this game.
Fucking can't miss that.
I don't have much on this game either. Texans went up 17-7 with a touchdown to Bobby Trees, a.k.a. Robert Woods. 17-10 at half. One thing I did take away from this game is I thought the Texans front looked really impressive at times.
Yeah.
You got Will Anderson in there, the young buck, and then they got a good mix of vets. They got Malik Collins, they got Sheldon Rankins, Jonathan Greenard. Good mixture of – they got Perry Minute linebacker, good mixture of vets with all of that young talent that they have on that defense. And I thought that defense played really well. Another thing I wrote down, where's Kamara? If you look at it on the stat sheet, his stats are okay. But it's like where's the explosive plays? Where's the creativity for Alvin Kamara? It's not there right now. They're not – it feels like their offense is it's not as good as it can be. Like there's no reason their offense should not be more productive than what it is with the weapons that they have on that offense. And that's why you brought Derek Carr in, is because he was that upgrade at quarterback. Texans D stepped up late in the red zone in this game. That's pretty much all I got. They pull out 2013.
They need to fire the offensive coordinator. I mean, the Saints, that is. You can't have that bland of an offense with the weapons that you have. And I just can't fathom that this is just Derek Carr deciding to dump it off. You're telling me in Derek Carr's head, that dude took shots down the field all the time when he was with Oakland or Vegas. And he was great off of play action. I said that a couple of weeks ago. They do not run play action with Derek Carr. I mean, you can't. It's just a statistic that you can't not know as the offensive coordinator of Derek Carr. This dude 2 years ago was the best in the league on play action plays. Best quarterback rating in the league off of play action. And you're not going to run play action with him when you have Kamara as the back. I don't care if you're establishing the run game or not. You have to play to your players. You got to play to their strengths. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You have to play to your players' strengths. That's Derek Carr's strength, play action. So, there was like a crucial 3rd and long. I think it was like it was either 3rd or 4th down, and it was like, they had to get 10, 12 yards, whatever the case is. And they run. They do a pass play, and Derek Carr dumps it off to Kamara for 2 yards. It wasn't like he was wide open. Like there was a guy to tackle him as soon as he caught the ball. I mean, you're telling me that this is the play you drew up, and your second option, or if your primary read wasn't there, you're hitting Kamara in the flat. They can do better than that. I'm not going to buy that this is all Derek Carr. This definitely has something to do with the scheme that they're trying to run and establish. And they suck. Their offense sucks right now. what I did call, I mean, I lost this bet. I thought the Saints were going to win this game outright. I took a -1.5, and I thought there was going to be, I thought there wasn't going to be a ton of points scored, and there wasn't, but that's mostly because the Saints offense sucked. But I did call that CJ Stroud was going to throw his first pick, and I thought that play was a huge momentum swing. You have the rookie who's been outstanding, hasn't thrown a pick all year. The linebacker picks him off, middle of the field, runs it back about 20 yards, and then gets hit and fumbles it. Texans get it right back. Mm-hmm. Now they have it first down near midfield, and they march right down and score. Like, if the Saints linebacker didn't fumble that, he holds it, who knows? The Saints might have went 3 and out from there, how they were playing. You never know. But to get the pick on the rookie, you never know how he would have bounced back from that. But the fact that they fumbled it and he gets it back right away, doesn't even have to think about it. That's the thing. He didn't even have to think about the pick. He just gets the ball back right away, marches down, scores a touchdown. I thought that was huge for him, though. That was impressive. But that was the biggest thing, is I didn't even have to think about it. He could just get right back to running the offense. He drove him right down, scored, and the Texans look like a legit team. I think that you look at their roster and it's not bad. I don't think they have a bad roster. I think they're kind of overachieving. They're definitely, I think, playing a lot better than people expected for sure, but it just seems like they love to play for DeMeco Ryans.
Yeah.
You know, I think obviously him being a former player, he's a player's coach, and he's a young coach. He's got to be one of the younger coaches in the league.
For sure.
He's just coaching those guys up. I think the coaching staff is just doing a great job.
Yeah, I think he's implementing a great culture there. And like you said, those guys love playing for him. They look like they're having fun. I wish my handwriting wasn't so bad, because I was trying to read what I wrote down, and it was the fact that CJ Stroud did throw the first pick of his career. So I was glancing over it like, I'll just move on to the next thing. That's all we got from that one. Moving on to the Minnesota Vikings beating the Chicago Bears 19-13. Whew. This one was a real barn burner, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I hated it. I hated that game. I thought the over was a lock, and both offenses flopped.
Yeah, a lot of field goals in this game. A lot of field goals. I wrote down not as exciting as I expected. We both expected a lot of points. Had the over as a big juicy bet. Didn't come through for us. Tremaine Edmonds had a real good interception in this game. I thought that was going to give the Bears some momentum, get them going. Pass rush got the Fields, and he just didn't look good while he was in there. As you know, Todd went through it. It continues to be up and down, up and down, up and down with Justin Fields. Eventually gets hurt, leaves the game. After that interception that he threw, and this game was it was so bad. It was so bad offensively. I was expecting so much more. I wrote down clown car noises. I don't know why that came to me, but I wrote it down because I was just like, I was hearing like the clown car noises in my head, because I was like, this is such a clown show right now watching this. Eventually, Jordan Addison gets the first touchdown of the game. Anytime touchdown, nailed it. After that, though, the Vikings get a strip sack for a fumble that resulted in a touchdown, made it 19-6. Tyson Bagent, is that his name? Rookie QB?
Yeah.
Tyson Bagent for the Bears came into the game. Second half first downs, the Bears had 8, the Vikings had 1, and they still lost this game. I just thought that was insane.
That's a crazy stat.
But kid threw a late interception down 6 when they had a chance to come back in that game. And I mean, there's nothing really more for me to go in on this game. I thought Cousins was going to play a lot better than he did. I thought Justin Fields was going to play a lot better than he did, and they just didn't. I feel like we've talked a lot about the Bears this show already. You got anything else for this one?
It comes down to like what I said earlier of just it being a weird week of football with like those heavy favorites either losing or besides the Dolphins, or almost losing in the Bills case. And this was another weird game that was just super out of pocket that I don't know if anyone saw this coming. Like, I'm one of Justin Fields' biggest critics, and I'll tell you as well as anybody else, like, if that guy has one outstanding game, I expect his next game to flop. Like, that's how inconsistent I think he is. But against the defense that Minnesota has, I'm like, okay, he's got 2 games in a row under his belt. I can't believe I'm betting on him to have a third game in a row where he plays good. But against this Minnesota Vikings defense, how could you not play well against them? And he didn't. I thought that, depending on the weather conditions, I was watching it real closely leading up to the game, and I was like, okay, it's going to be a little windy, but who cares? It's going to be sunny. There's no rain. It's the Windy City. They're used to that wind. And I thought he would be able to at least run around, use his legs, get that going. And he didn't. He didn't. I thought, like you mentioned, Kirk was going to play a lot better than he did. He didn't have a good game. And I don't know what it is about that Vikings offense this year. I mean, this was their first game without Jefferson. And I didn't think that missing him against the Bears defense would have been that significant. But it proved me wrong. I thought this game had like 34-30 or 34-27 written all over it, and it ended up being, what did you say, 19-13?
Yep.
That's crazy. I wouldn't, if you gave me the over under at 33, I would have been like, I know that 19-13 is 32, but if someone would have said like 33-35 even, I would have hammered the over. I would have bet my bank account that the over was going to hit if it was that low. So I was very, 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 very surprised that ended up being a defensive battle. But I guess from 2 of the more inconsistent teams, you can't be that surprised.
Shout out again to Todd. Appreciate you, and we're thinking of you. Moving on.
Yeah. Love you, Todd.
Let's get to the 4:00 games. Patriots, Raiders. Raiders 21, Patriots 17.
Oh, it's bringing back terrible memories, dude. This was like the ultimate bad beat for me, dude. I don't know if I've had a worse beat in my betting career than the Patriots and Raiders game. So obviously the Patriots were my big juicy bet at plus 3.5. And it was karma. Karma just fucked me right in the face, dude. I said, thank you, Max Crosby. I'm going to write you a personal letter and thank you for that personal foul call, the roughing the passer that extended the drive, and the Patriots end up scoring a touchdown where Ramondre Stevenson, I believe it was a run or whatever, Stevenson scores, and now the Patriots are down 2. I'm like, all right, they're down 2. The Raiders aren't going to try to score. They're going to run the clock out if anything. Patriots stop them. The Raiders punt it. The Patriots have it down inside the 10-yard line now. And I'm still very comfortable, right? I'm still very comfortable. I'm like, okay, just don't turn it over here. Don't turn it over. We win. We win the bet. So what does Mac Jones do? He throws an absolute dime. I mean, Mac Jones is known for this. He's known for making stupid plays, bad decisions, bad throws. But once a game or once every other game, he just drops a ball where you're like, dude, he couldn't have thrown that any better. He dropped it right in the well of Devontae Parker running a streak down the sideline, and Parker dropped it. So, very next play, I think they got called for a delayed game to back them up just a couple yards. Very next play, this motherfucker, Mac Jones, takes a fucking sack for a safety to move it to 4. And there we go. We lose our fucking bet because Mac Jones couldn't get the ball out of his hand. And I even said to CJ, the play before the Devontae Parker throw, I said, dude, I'm a little nervous he's going to throw a pick 6 here. And instead, he drops a dime for a drop and then takes a safety. I couldn't unbury my head for about a legit 2 to 3 minutes. Like, I had my head in my hands. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Nobody talked to me for like 10 minutes. I think they just knew how internally pissed I was. I didn't say a word for about 10, 15 minutes. But that's it. I blacked out. I don't know anything. I don't remember anything about that game other than that final possession and the Stevenson touchdown. This is such a bad beat, dude. It doesn't get much worse than that.
It's bad. And he had a really bad, really, 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 really bad interception earlier where Hunter Henry was just wide open. He's wide open for the first down and he throws it like 10 yards over the dude's head. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, Belichick has to be like, I don't know. I don't know what they did mix in. Malik Cunningham had like 6 snaps this game. So maybe a little larger package going forward with Malik Cunningham at quarterback for the Patriots. Like we said, just to get a little something, you know what I mean? Like I thought Mac Jones did play decent, relatively like a decent amount of this game, but he's not special. He's not it, and he continues to, you know, when the game's on the line. He did make that throw to Parker. He did. That was
you got to catch the ball.
That was a great throw by Mac Jones. I didn't think he had that in him. I mean, just the want to complete that pass and like thinking he can complete that. I didn't think he had that in him. I'm gonna be honest. That was a great ball. But like you said, they get the penalty and then take a sack. You can't do it because that's it right there. Other things from this game, Jimmy G gets hurt, so technically they lose it. They lost to Brian Hoyer, the former longtime Patriot. So that's tough to swallow for the New England Patriots. But like we said, where do you go from here? We'll see. Moving on.
At least they put up more than 3 points.
True. The Los Angeles Rams defeat the Arizona Cardinals 26-9. This game was a little scary first half for my Rams. Just nothing really clicking. It's like there were flashes of it, but they weren't sustaining it. And then second half, get the run game going. And that's the formula. Like we get the run game going, then we get the play action going, and Stafford has the time because there's that threat of running the football. He has that time to dice defenses up, and that's exactly what happened. Thought Cooper Kupp looked good again. Kyron Williams, what a day for him. He's banged up. We'll see if he can go for us. But what a day for Kyron Williams. Other than that, I didn't have because the whole first half, it was just me being glued to the game and waiting for something to happen from our offense. And our defense did a good job of, that was the first time where I was like, somebody besides Aaron Donald was making an impact from our D-line. And I thought that was big. I mean, it is Arizona. They don't have a great front. But I'm hoping we can build off that going forward. Some other guys like Jonah Williams stepping up and getting to the quarterback. It's going to make, you gotta present another threat to help Donald out, to free him up just a little bit. Like, he's going to get double teamed, yeah, but just give me something else. And we had that on Sunday. So that was good to see. And I'm hoping that we can hang on to that going forward. We muffed a punt early in that game where I was just like, what is going on? You know what I mean? And the defense held up. Credit to them. That could have been a big momentum swing in that game. And the defense held up and forced a field goal. I thought that was big. The defense allowed the offense to get their rhythm going. And that's complementary football. I mean, your offense isn't going to always be clicking. So if your defense can just hang on long enough for your offense to get rolling, that's big. And that's what happened. And never looked back. Once we took control of that game, we never looked back.
The only thing I really felt comfortable with in this game was taking the over. The -7 for me was a little. I mean, even if I teased it in the Rams' direction and went -3.5, I think I did do that, to be honest with you. I don't know. Let me double check on that, because I did tease that, but the main thing that I saw early was just 2.5 is what I did, actually, and then over 40.5, and we ended up with, I think, 36 total points. I did expect the Cardinals to score more than 9, but Dobbs missed Hollywood Brown on a couple deep shots early in the game. It just underthrew him. There was the one in the end zone. I thought that was a for sure touchdown, and the Rams linebacker stuck his hand out just far enough to get like his fingertips on the ball
Yes. Yep.
and disrupt that throw, or else that was a for sure touchdown. And
It was Witherspoon, corner.
Witherspoon. Oh, he's big for a corner. I thought he was a linebacker. This dude's
Yeah.
fucking big. What is he, 6'3"?
He's a big boy.
Yeah, so there was that throw, and then there was another one where he missed them. And I think if they connect on those two, it's definitely a bit different of a ball game. But the Rams played really well defensively against a team that, has showed they can be versatile offensively. Maybe missing James Conner was obviously that hurts that offense. But yeah, I just think that the Rams are who I think they are, and that's a winning football team when you have Stafford, Kupp, both healthy, and Aaron Donald, and then Sean McVay is scheming well. I mean, I know I said this on one of the last episodes that I think they are a legit playoff contender. I know that their defense might be playing above expectations, but I just love Stafford and Kupp that much. And I think that the Rams, especially in the NFC, which I think is a little bit weaker this year, I think they can sneak in. How do you feel about that?
If we can protect Stafford, there's no limit to what this offense can accomplish. Because another thing I forgot to mention, we talk about Kyron Williams having a big day. As a team, we had 174 yards rushing in the second half.
Just the second half.
Just the second half. So when you can get your run game going like that, to where Stafford doesn't have all the pressure on him, that makes you really dangerous. Mm-hmm. And as long as McVay has the patience to stick with the run, open up the screen game, and then play off that play action, that there's no limit to what this offense could do. Yeah, the defense is young. They may be overachieving right now. But how many weeks are we going to go talking about a unit overachieving before we realize that, hey, maybe this unit's good. Maybe this unit is better than what we expected. And I think that may be the case with the Rams defense right now. I just think Raheem Morris is a fucking great defensive coordinator. I think we're lucky to have him as our D coordinator. The fact that he's still there with us, even after that Super Bowl run we made. Credit to him getting these young guys. There's so many young guys. And Byron Young, rookie, had a strip sack late in this game that was huge. I'm continuing to be impressed by the youth on defense, making plays out there for us. And I think if they could continue to do that with what we got on offense, I think, yeah, we can make a run in a wild card. How far can we go? Who's to say, what's going to happen down the road? Like, who gets hot? All you got to do is get in. And as we saw this past weekend, anybody can beat anybody. Anything can happen in the game of football. I mean, it's any given Sunday. Exactly. You got anything else on this one?
No.
All right, cool. Moving on, the New York Jets defeat the Philadelphia Eagles 20-14. No more undefeated teams in the league. Lane Johnson leaves the game hurt, got rolled up on. We'll see what that looks like going forward. I thought Jalen Hurts was making plays early in this game. He was really accurate early. Jets stopped the Eagles Jets stop the Eagles at the 1, and then they come back from the commercial break and say, oh, no, he was actually in. So I didn't understand what was up with that. So the Eagles went up 7-0 in this game. That was a little weird to me, but I had the Eagles on the big juicy bet, so I wasn't complaining about it. A.J. Brown makes a big play, touchdown reception by DeAndre Swift. They go up 14-3. And at this point, I'm thinking, it's 14-3. Zach Wilson against that rush. It's 14-3 where they're going to have to, be a little more dynamic offensively. Aren't going to be able to sit on the ball as much. I thought Zach Wilson, given the circumstances, that was a solid game from Zach Wilson. Yeah, he's not Aaron Rodgers, obviously, but the Jets are 3-3 right now. And if you would have told me that the Jets are 3-3 after Rodgers went down with that Achilles opening weekend, I would have said you're crazy because of what I thought of Zach Wilson. But credit to the dude, like he's kept it together enough, and he's doing enough to play off of that defense to not make that mistake that's going to cost them the game.
Yeah.
And they hung around. They hung around the whole game. The defense stood up. That Quentin Williams is obviously amazing. People forget about Quincy Williams. That dude is an amazing linebacker in this league that doesn't get talked about enough. He's unbelievable, the way he flies around. Zach Wilson had a really good throw to Garrett Wilson when it was 14-9. Ended up making it 14-12 with a field goal. And then I thought late in that game, in the second half of that game, the Jets front completely took that game over. There were two games where the defensive front just completely took over the game and said, we're winning this game. And it was the Jets and it was the Bengals. Both those pass rushes took it on themselves to carry their team to victory. And it's like people want to kill Jalen Hurts, but that defense for the Jets is really fucking good. And that front may be the best in the league. So, yeah, he turned the ball over. But that's what other quarterbacks have been doing against this Jets defense too. I thought Hurts played good enough to win that game. But I thought that they just bailed on the run. I thought they bailed on the run, and they put too much pressure on Hurts. We talk about the Bills putting too much pressure on Josh Allen. DeAndre Swift, 10 carries. You got to give DeAndre Swift the ball more than that. And you're putting the game in the hands of Jalen Hurts against a really good pass rush. And I just thought they put way too much pressure on him. The turnovers killed him in the end. Like, that's what cost them. And the Jets ended up scoring. Well, they let him score Breece Hall touchdown. And Jets D holds him in the end, forces a field goal. Elliott missed a field goal late in that game. Jets hang around. Defense played good. Zach Wilson, big chunk play to Garrett Wilson that made it 14-12. After that Jets front gets to Jalen Hurts, causes an interception, and the Jets offense did nothing with it at that point. And I have it written down. It was just like, can you imagine this team with Aaron Rodgers right now, with how this defense is playing? Like, could you just imagine if they had Aaron Rodgers on the field, what that team would be doing? No juice from the Eagles. And then there was a 3rd and 6, 34-yard reception by A.J. Brown. I thought that was huge. But the Jets D holds, and they force a field goal, and Jake Elliott misses the 37-yard field goal. So that was absolutely huge. And then Hurts throws a pick in the end. Let the Jets score. Breece Hall gets a touchdown, and the rest is history. Jets 20, Eagles 14. Wild.
I was so confident that the Eagles were going to win this game that I bumped their line from -6.5 to -9.5. That's how much of a rout I thought this game was going to be because of how good that Eagles front defensively was versus a Jets offense that I felt kind of like is somewhat reliant on the run to be successful. And they were missing one of their best offensive linemen. I'm like, Zach Wilson's going to have to be forced to throw the ball with Slay and Bradbury in that front. He's not going to have much time, and they're going to be, probably focused scheme wise to take Garrett Wilson out of it. But credit to Zach Wilson and the Jets scheme. Sunday they did obviously a lot better than I thought they were going to do, and maybe this is something now that we keep in mind moving forward, but I don't want to overreact. Like, I don't want to overreact because it was just such a crazy out of pocket week across the board for a lot of these games that I'm trying to not overreact, stick to what we know, which is Zach Wilson's not that great. But they are 3-3 after the 6-game stretch. The teams that they've played, like, and they mentioned this actually on the broadcast, like, apparently Salah was asked something, and he said, I would be happy if we're 3-3 after week 6. And that was when Aaron Rodgers was healthy. He said, I would be happy if we were 3-3 after week 6. So the teams they played this year: week 1, Bills; week 2, Cowboys; then the Patriots; then the Chiefs; then the Broncos; and then the Eagles. 4 of those games are easy L's. If you know Zach Wilson as your quarterback: Bills, Chiefs, Cowboys, Eagles. I would bet the house they would have lost all 4 of those games, and they won 2 of them. What's the one that they did? Oh, they lost to the Patriots. Yeah, that's that's kind of a bad L, but either way, very impressed with what the Jets pulled off. I will
They
never
always lose the Patriots.
That's true. I will never be disappointed when the Eagles lose, even though I, was on board with a big juicy bet, and I even bumped it up a little bit. Just a weird week. It happens, and if they had Aaron Rodgers, that would be scary, and maybe that's why they were all so hype, going into the year.
Well, he's pregame. He was out there throwing the ball. I mean, he's talking about playing again this season. So for them to be at 3-3 and have that in the back of their minds as a team that, hey, maybe Rodgers comes back if we can just hold the fort.
Yeah,
that gives you even more, added incentive to really work your ass off. And they
a lot of confidence.
credit to them, like Robert Saleh keeping that team together. I mean, they were missing. There are 3 starting corners against the Philadelphia Eagles. Who would have thought, going into that game? They didn't even have Sauce out there. Like,
just crazy.
Unbelievable.
Just crazy.
But that's the NFL, man. You got to show up.
Exactly.
Let's move on to the Detroit Lions. Just run a train on the Tampa Bay Bucks, 20-6. That it's a freight train right now in Detroit. Like, that defense is legit. I want to start talking about, are the Lions a Super Bowl threat right now, do you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm in it.
I think that they're one of the top 3 teams in the NFC. I mean, we could just say they're one of the best teams in the NFC. They're one of the better teams in the league right now. I think I'm comfortable putting them up there with the Eagles, Niners, Chiefs, Bills, Cowboys, whoever you think is the top team in the league. I think the Detroit Lions are up there, and the biggest thing for me is that they have an established run game, even without Swift, even without Jamal Williams, and even last week, did Montgomery play?
He got hurt.
He got hurt, right?
Yeah, and Jahmyr Gibbs.
Jahmyr Gibbs was out, and they still got it done against a tough defense. That offensive line is a great unit. They're protecting Goff, and Goff is just picking apart defenses. And then their defense is really the biggest surprise this year, just as well as they're playing. I mean, but once again, we talk about playing for coaches. Dan Campbell is not a hard coach to play for. Those guys play their ass off for him. I almost said Dan Quinn. So, but yeah, man, I love what the Lions are doing this year. I did take them. I think I took them at -2.5 for that game. I wasn't a big believer in what Baker has done so far this year. I've never been a huge fan of Baker. I talk about not overreacting. I try not to overreact to the first few games, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Baker. I think he's played well so far this year. But going against Detroit, it's tough. Detroit's a tough D.
They are. That touchdown to St. Brown, what a block by Craig Reynolds. Talk about those running backs being hurt. I mean, that's a sign of a great culture right there, is when your top two backs are out and your third string running back comes in and he's just blasting dudes like that. You don't see running backs make those blocks. Like, that was an incredible block that set St. Brown up for that touchdown. They get Jamison Williams to make it 17-6. Jared Goff just threw it up to him in the end zone, and Jamison Williams, I mean, he does what he does. He's that deep threat for them. Yeah. And now that they have that mixed in with everything else that offense has already established, it's pretty scary on top of the way that defense is playing. And Super Bowl threat, we got to start talking about the Detroit Lions. They're up there. I mean, they're definitely top 3 in the NFC right now. So, I mean, like we said, any given Sunday, any given week, you don't know what's going to happen in a playoff matchup. But they look really good right now.
I was just going to say, like, I think at some point we see like what their initial plan was for Jahmyr Gibbs, and it's going to be a really tough 1-2 punch between him and Montgomery. So they've got it all on the offensive end.
They do. All right, moving into Sunday night, the Buffalo Bills pull it out of their ass at home against the New York Giants, 14-9. I mean, the Bills are a clock error at the end of that first half away from losing to the Giants primetime at home. When the Bills are low, the Bills are one of those teams. When they're at their ceiling, when they're at their peak, they can play with absolutely anybody, or they can blow out absolutely anybody. But their low is so low. They look so bad and so predictable as an offense when their low is low. And I mean, we saw it in that playoff game last year against Cincy. We saw it week 1 against the Jets. When that offense is bad, they're bad. And I thought they got the run game. We talked about them establishing the run last week, how they just refused to do it. I mean, James Cook had 71 yards rushing on 14 carries. He's averaging 5.1 a carry. I mean, Latavius Murray had 45 yards on top of that. They did get the running game going, but it's like, in the end, they're going to try to force the ball to Stephon Diggs. You just know that's what they're going to do. Diggs ended up having 10 catches for 100 yards. That's great. That looks great on the stat sheet. But are they getting better as an offense week to week, doing the same thing? I don't know if it benefits you. Just, there were multiple times in that game where I'm seeing Josh Allen's got his check down, or he's got like that intermediate route. It's there. He's got it there, but he continues to force the ball down the field, trying to make that home run play. It's like he's not taking what's given to him. It's always been his knock. He's just the same. He's the same. He's not taking what the defense has given him. And it's, the Giants were like, hey, we're not going to give up the deep ball. And it's like, we're going to let you do all this, and we're going to make you have the patience, to try to beat us underneath. And the Bills just don't have that. They don't have the patience to, just pound the run all game. They don't have the patience to dial a defense up with short and intermediate routes or screens, and really get their team in a rhythm. It's just always, it's home run ball or bust. I think part of that is on Dorsey, but I think a good portion of that is on Josh Allen and his just mentality as a quarterback to always want to make that big play. Defensively, I thought the Bills played really good. Tyrod Taylor I mean, given the circumstances for Tyrod Taylor, he put out a performance on Sunday night. So credit to Tyrod Taylor, but that Bills defense, Taron Johnson is a player. That dude ended up with 15 tackles. I just feel like he's all over the field, nonstop for Buffalo, and it's like miss me with the injuries because the defense is banged up and the defense is still playing. Like that McDermott defense is still playing their ass off, and they got guys that are stepping up for them, like Terrell Bernard. That's another guy found out of nowhere. What he led the team after Johnson in tackles. But I just think that the Bills are literally like a sports car. And it's like if everything's tuned up right, the weather conditions are good, then they're gonna light you up. You know what I mean? Like they're that fancy sports car. But it's like if things get a little tough, or you have a bit of a breakdown or something, the weather gets messy. I feel like their low is so low that they're not able to overcome that. They don't know how to overcome that. I think it's part to do with Josh Allen. I think it's part to do with Dorsey and failing to, establish this run game.
Yeah, and the best part about that game was that I had the pleasure to watch it with Matt Mattis. And it's funny you brought up Taron Johnson. He's stated in that game, I can't quote it word for word, but it was along the lines of, I'm not that big of a fan of Taron Johnson. And I remember being like, what don't you like about him? What's wrong with this guy? But to speak on the injuries, like that's the sign of a good team, though. A good defense or a good offense is your depth. If you have good depth, you're going to be a good team. I think Todd touched on that earlier, actually, about having depth. And the Bills show that when you have somebody go down who is a great player and they go down early in the season, by week 10, you forget about it if their replacement has stepped up and played well. If not, then yeah, people are just going to every single week point to the injuries like, oh, he's hurt. You don't never know what this defense could have been, but it's like you have to move on. You just have to move on because there's nothing you can do about it. Tyrod Taylor threw some really really good balls, I should say. He played great. He threw the ball really well. I was impressed from what he brought. Saquon playing was big for them. I mean, early the Bills were able to shut down the run, but that's the thing. But when you're a running football team, or at least your strength is your run game, you have to stick to it. You're going to have, out of 30 carries in a game, half of them are probably going to be for 2 or 3 yards or less, right? But it's about just sticking with it and then finally hitting on the runs. I think the Giants did a good job of sticking to the run, and a part of that was they were able to stay in the game. Their defense played well for probably the first time this year and was able to keep them in the game. When we were looking at the lines before the game, I thought that 15 was just too many points. As we saw with a lot of the games, a lot of the favorites this week, the underdogs were huge this week. But that's basically it. Like I don't think this is something we can expect to see from the Giants week in and week out. When Daniel Jones comes back, if he comes back, I don't know that, they have another performance like this, which is crazy because last year they were just so solid. That's really the only way you can put it. They were just a solid team last year. They really weren't that bad. They didn't have a ton of weak spots. They didn't have that much turnover going into this season, yet they suck. So, I think this was a positive for Giants and Giants fans to keep this game close and almost win it. But yeah, that end of the first half, that clock management debacle, I couldn't fathom it. How do you allow that to happen? And I know Dable let Taylor hear it on the way to the locker room, and you could see him. that conversation going on. But like, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in that locker room going into the second half. I don't know how you allow that to happen.
I thought Okereke, the linebacker for the Giants, had one of the best games I've seen a linebacker play this year. That dude was balling out there. Other than that, yeah, they did get Barkley going a bit. I thought he looked good. Thought he looked a lot healthier than I expected. That clock issue at the end of the first half just absolutely killed them. And it showed in the end. Like, you take that away, if you get 3 there, you're going to win that game. So,
yeah.
Bills escaped, though. Bills escaped.
Sorry. One more thing. I was going to say, you talked about Josh Allen just always looking for the deep threat. And I think, like, somebody else in that receiving core has to step up. I know a lot of Bills fans love Gabe Davis because he had like 4 touchdowns in the Chiefs game in the playoffs a couple years ago. But the dude is like, unless you hit him on a 60-yard streak, he's a ghost on the field. The dude, he's not really getting, he's not really giving them much production. And then the guys behind Gabe Davis, nobody knows. Nobody knows any Bills receivers other than Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. So what they have to do, like, you spent a first-round pick on Dalton Kincaid, use the kid. You have Dawson Knox, who is a good tight end, and you draft Kincaid, not to really, I don't think, replace him because you just gave him a contract extension. Like, you drafted Kincaid with your first-round pick to use him in ways similar to how the Chiefs use Travis Kelce. Well, if that's the case, do it.
Yeah.
Use the kid. You spent that capital on him, utilize him.
That is a great point. Something I didn't even think about because it's like, where is Dalton Kincaid been? You know what I mean? It's a name that's just slipped me. But there isn't that. Like I said, you got to get somebody else involved because teams are eventually going to know like what you're trying to do against them. If you don't have those other threats, it's going to make it so much harder on you, especially when it gets colder and you got snow in Buffalo and all that. Let's move on to Monday night though. Your Dallas Cowboys get back on track, take the 2017 dub in LA over the Chargers. I expected a lot more points to be scored in this game. Took the over, took the L. I thought a big key to this game was the rush defense for Dallas. I expected Austin Eckler to come back and have a game last night, and that just wasn't the case. His final stat line was 14 carries for 27 yards. So I thought that was huge, taking the run game out of the Chargers' hands. Like I said, it was very even. You never really knew what was going to happen in this game. Cowboys didn't get Tony Power going really at all. It was all Dak on the ground, something we haven't seen for a while now. I thought they got CD going, ended up with 117 yards. And in the end, it ended up being that Cowboys defense that won the game in the end for him with Michael Parsons taking down Justin Herbert and not giving him that chance to go down the field and score. And the pass rush got to him, and he threw a pick to Stephon Gilmore. So I know you got a lot on this one.
Yeah, a lot to unpack. I think that a lot of people expected more points to be put up on the board. Dallas had, the injury to Van Der Esch, I think will play a role for the next 3 to 4 weeks, but I thought that this was going to be tough to overcome the first week he's gone, finding a replacement. Because outside of Dallas, so the 2 linebackers they have that are legit linebackers, Damone Clark, Van Der Esch. Damone Clark is more of your run stopping linebacker that you play on first and second down. He's not great in pass coverage, and that's why they had Jabril Cox, but they cut him after the training camp or preseason. They cut him, which was kind of a surprising move to a lot of Cowboys fans because they spent a 4th-round pick on him just a couple years ago, and he had torn his ACL in year 1, but he came back. The dude is very, very fast for a linebacker, great in coverage. So that's what we all thought he would do. He'd be able to find a niche somewhere in that defense under Dan Quinn as a coverage linebacker, but they cut him. So now who do they look to once Van Der Esch goes down? Devin Harper? He's not the answer. So what they did was they used a lot more of their safeties. Marquise Bell had his best game of his NFL career last night. He was all over the place, just making play after play. Deron Bland stepped up, but like you mentioned, that run defense, That's what Dallas drafted Mozzie Smith in the first round to do, was to help shore up that run defense. And he's not even really playing. It's just Osa Digizua and Jonathan Hankins. Like, those two are really just filling up the gaps, and they made it tough. At that first drive, I was like, here we go. The Chargers went right down the field. I think Dallas, I don't know if they went 3 and out, but they punted on their first drive, and the Chargers go right down and score. Like, the script that Kellen Moore came up with for the first drive was flawless. And I thought that it was going to, the Chargers were going to put up 40 points. But to the Cowboys' credit on defense, Dan Quinn, they bounced back and they played great. The surprising thing to me was that they didn't really get, like, they were getting pressure on Herbert, but they weren't getting any sacks. They didn't have their first sack until the very last drive of the game. So I thought that was a great sign from their defense, though, to bounce back after that, horrendous performance against San Francisco. And then after that first drive, they didn't, for whatever reason, that first drive, they didn't look motivated to tackle anybody. They kind of just looked like they were going through the motions, and then something kicked in. I don't know, maybe DeMarcus Lawrence fucking yelled at everybody, told them to get their shit together. Who knows? But they came out and balled after that. But the offense, I don't think Dak played bad. I think Dak had a solid game, but they really, both sides of this game, both teams just committed way too many penalties. And I thought that hurt. The Chargers really hurt themselves. They really shot themselves in the foot. And Dallas kind of did the same thing. They got lucky to come away with the win. Because Dallas could have very easily lost that game. But I think it's a boost. I know that was a big game for Kellen Moore. I'd love to, as much as obviously I don't want the Chargers to score, I love seeing that emotion from Kellen Moore after they scored that first touchdown, because I know it was a big game for him. But that's pretty much it. I think that moving forward, Dallas just they have to get Tony Pollard going more, and that'll open it up. I think, they finally started to really go. You hear the cat? I think that oh my gosh, shut that thing up. I think
it agrees.
Goodness, see, this is what we were talking about in the very first episode. I was like, hey, you might hear this thing from time to time. We've gotten away with it.
Oh my goodness.
He's showing off now. But
two more things I want to add. Deron Bland is really good. He's going to be a household name here pretty soon. He just continues to impress. And then I thought Brandon Staley just had another, what the fuck are you doing? When the score is 10-7, you're down, it's 4th and 1. They run a little bootleg, and he don't get it. Didn't like the play call, didn't like the decision to go for it. I just thought at that point in the game, you take the points and tie it. I mean, the Chargers just continue to lose these close games. Nobody loses close games like the Chargers do. It's just so predictable in the end. Like, when you see that it's a close game, I mean, it's prime time, Chargers in a close game, you just know that they're going to somehow end up losing the game. It just, that's who they are. That's who they are.
We said that coming in, we weren't very confident in taking the Cowboys in this one. But I did say I'm going to take Cowboys money line just because the Chargers find ways to lose games. And that's the only reason I took the money line for Dallas, was because the Chargers find ways to lose games. What I was going to say about another thing about the Cowboys offense is that CeeDee Lamb, like, they finally got him going. Like, the guy is your best weapon on offense. You got to utilize him when you're trying to throw the ball. So they finally got him really involved, and he looked really good. Brandon Cooks got his first touchdown of the year. Happy for him. Timing with some of that. Chargers defense was really handsy. They got away with it. Like, there was a lot of handsy plays that the refs let go, which I'm not opposed to. I like kind of sometimes letting these guys play. So I thought it was a good game. Cowboys got lucky to come out of there with a win.
Yeah. And that's it. That's it for our Week 6 NFL recap. Catch us later this week. We will have a Week 7 preview for you. We will have some more segments on the way. And we will have big, juicy bets.
Hey, expect to bounce back next week.
Follow us on Instagram, New Score Podcast. Follow us, like us on Facebook. Subscribe, like YouTube, find New Score Podcast, and also on Spotify. We will see you later this week. Goodbye.
When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Tryna stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like a rock and roll tour. When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Tryna stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like a rock and roll.